Nigeria Center for Disease Control records 453 new COVID-19 cases. Unilag Government Council appoints new Vice-Chancellor. Ogundipe alleges witch hunt. In international news, Lebanon faces looming food crisis after massive explosion. And in sport, NFF to retire number 6 Eagles jersey.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Nigeria's confirmed cases of coronavirus have now surpassed 47,000 after NCDC records 453 cases on Wednesday. Lagos posted 113 of the total numbers. The Federal Capital Territory recorded 72. Plateau State had 59, followed by Enugu with 55. The rest of the cases were distributed among 12 other states. NCDC confirms 956 persons have died so far. The University of Lagos Governing Council has appointed Professor Theophilus Shoyombo as the acting Vice-Chancellor after sacking former Vice-Chancellor Oluwatoyin Ogundipe, who assumed office 3 years ago. Ogundipe was accused of infractions and gross misconduct, financial recklessness and abuse of office. But in a swift reaction, Ogundipe says his removal was, quote, mischievous disinformation and does not have the backing of the law. The law vests the power to remove a vice-chancellor of the Nigerian president who is the visitor to federal government universities. The council can only remove the deputy vice-chancellor. Meanwhile, Chairman Unilag Chapter of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, Dele Ashiru, has rejected Shoyombo's appointment. Ashiru insists Ogundipe remains the university's vice-chancellor and that his removal is illegal because it's the machination of the pro-chancellor to destabilize the university. The devastating effects of the coronavirus pandemic continue to shock as statistics fluctuate. Every day, COVID-19 deaths mount, job losses increase, and economic woes force many out of their businesses. The effect of continued threats to societal behaviors, especially among the youths. These have begun to manifest in increased substance abuse during COVID-19. Correspondent Kelechi Mekalam has the story.
A session to help those struggling with addiction ongoing at this rehab center in northern Nigeria. Derang, whose full identity is concealed, checked himself into this facility after months of substance abuse. Aside from being influenced by his peers, Derang says he drank excessive alcohol and used drugs to ease his stress, a habit that spiraled into an uncontrollable addiction. But he's glad that he's able to get help here.
In this part of the world, there is a lot of stigmatization when it comes to therapy or rehabilitation. For a person, I decided on my own to check myself into a rehabilitation system. This would be my second month in this facility, and although I would say that although I was aware of some things that would happen, but it has been a journey that has been fulfilling.
A 2018 UN drug survey reports that 14.3 million people are drug dependent in Nigeria, and new data from UN suggests more people are abusing opioids and other illegal substances amid the COVID-19 lockdown.
Boredom is one of the major triggers for drug abuse. So boredom, unemployment, underemployment, the fact that people are at home, unable to go out, unable to work. Stress is also a major trigger for substance abuse and relapse. So because a lot of people are going through financial difficulties, a lot of people have lost their jobs, they're unemployed, they're underemployed. And so this stress, is something that they look for ways to cope. And for many people, that coping mechanism will be will result in substance abuse.
Nigeria's Drug Law Enforcement Agency reports that it has been seeing more drug-related crimes.
We have been at work because if we stop to work because of the pandemic, the drug criminals will continue to work irrespective of the pandemic. We have been able to seize several kilograms, or let's say tons, of even cannabis, because like I told you, is the major local threat. A state like Kogi, you will be surprised, has been able to seize 6 tons of cannabis during this pandemic. Benue has seized 3 tons. Edo has seized over 1 ton.
Mental health experts credit family breakdown, mood disorders, and chemical imbalance as some of the factors responsible for drug abuse. For many, the road to recovery could be months or even years, and psychologists propose routine emotional health checks and having a strong support network to help prevent future relapses.
Nigerians across all social media platforms have expressed displeasure over Lagos State government's new regulations on ride-hailing services. Passenger fare is expected to increase as ride-hailing services in Lagos, including Uber, Taxify and private taxi drivers, will begin operating under new regulations and heavy licensing fees effective a week from now. For operating license, ride-hailing services that have fewer than 1,000 taxis will pay 10 million naira and annual renewal charge of 5 million naira, while those with more vehicles will be charged 25 million naira and a renewal fee of 10 million naira yearly. In addition, ride-hailing service providers will also pay 10% service tax to the state on each transaction paid by passengers. Service providers are expected to grant the Ministry of Transportation access to their database. The state government says this became necessary to reduce kidnapping, robbery, pollution, and insecurity.
Coming up, African stories. COVID-19 increases alcohol abuse among Kenyan youths. And later, international news. Lebanon faces looming food crisis after massive explosion.
You are watching ANN.
See you tomorrow, Papa. I am happy and I know I'm free.
Now na time for meeting. Any landlord when no show go pay fine.
Make I go call her.
House number 1. Present.
Papa, they don't disturb me too.
House number 5.
And they're angry that you are not here.
Just put me on the window there so that I can see them and I can hear them. He's not around, so his house is sanctioned. Present. I carry data for head, I carry him for back. Correct data, I know the payment. Say I know they know me, say I know this yoga landlord. Talk to me face to face.
Explore without limits. Turn it up on MTN, the reliable data network.
Driver, fire ahead.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. New procedures are being put in place in Uganda to reduce the possible spread of the coronavirus. Along with other safety measures, temperature screening is one of the requirements before entry into public places to assist in a smoother and more accurate measurements. The country is engaged in technology. Respondent Leo Sionj reports.
Uganda's latest phone innovation, a smartphone that can measure body temperature. The inbuilt tool has infrared sensors integrated into the rear camera block.
You can put the name, then how old, each key, then also you put other information. Yes. Then after that, you can serve it. Yes, serve it. Then after serve it, then we have the data control center. Yes, when you open the data control center, you know how many people you test for one day, where are they?
The tool is already coming in handy at this factory. Every worker's temperature is regularly taken. I'm going to have my body temperature measured here. Ivan will tell me what exactly it is.
The temperature is 36.5.
36.5, he says, and that falls within the normal body temperature range. The phone solution is expected to help with Uganda's COVID-19 response efforts. Temperature guns have been commonly used as part of the COVID-19 screening.
Every time we move with our phones. So by installing this or building the gun temperature into a phone, it becomes more handy for you to check yourself 10 or 20 times a day. In that, even if you go back anywhere, you are able to tell your body temperature.
Health officials say the device will solve the inadequacies at health facilities across the country. It will also bring down the cost of applying the COVID-19 measures of checking body temperatures at access points.
We've been having a challenge of shortage of the temperature guns or the infrared thermometers, and having a mobile phone that has incorporated this technology, it is a very great, it's a great deal to the detection of cases as we open up the sectors that have been under lockdown.
The tool is currently undergoing testing for approval to meet local and international standards, and it will cost about $100, a small price, some say, to save a life.
Schools and universities in the Democratic Republic of the Congo reopened on Monday after more than 4 months of suspension amid the coronavirus pandemic. President Felix Tshisekedi visited some of the schools and warned that removing the state of emergency does not erase the coronavirus. He urged students and staff to continue observing safety measures aimed at containing the spread. Chris Okambringa reports.
It's the first day of school in Kinshasa after the government eased COVID-19 restrictions. Only students who are taking their final exams have been allowed to attend classes. They are back after nearly 5 months of staying at home.
Nous avons eu l'interruption de plus ou moins 4 mois.
We had an interruption of 4 months and 3 weeks in our school activities because of the pandemic. During that period, we provided online classes so that our students continue learning. Now we have resumed our classes for candidates who will be sitting exams this year.
Authorities in Manyanga Primary School have reduced the number of students in class to limit the spread of the coronavirus. The students are thrilled to be back despite the new changes.
I'm happy to be back in school because studying with my friends is much better than studying online. Our teacher has explained some new lessons that would have been difficult to grasp on my own.
It's good that we've been allowed to continue our studies. We missed a lot during the lockdown. We now have to double our efforts to catch up before the year ends. I believe we will do well in the exams despite the interruption.
The DRC capital, Kinshasa, is the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic. The government has issued strict orders to schools to observe the new health regulations. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, this area would be filled with pupils interacting with their friends during break time. But it's now deserted because the new measures prohibit large crowds to protect the pupils from getting infected. Earlier this year, the government introduced free primary education to expand access to education. But the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted its programs and kept many children out of class. Some of them are now finally returning to school.
Lockdowns brought about by COVID-19 pandemic has caused so many abnormal developments in many communities around the world. In Kenya, for example, it is believed that the pandemic might have boosted the rise of alcohol abuse among the young. Respondent Robert Nagila has the story.
According to Moving the International, an advocacy group, more and more people in Kenya are turning to alcohol to pass time and have started to use it to cope with the stresses of the pandemic and being in isolation. Since the closure of bars as part of containment measures by the government to control the spread of COVID-19, there's been a surge in online alcohol sales. Experts say online alcohol sales has made it easier for young people to access alcohol. The National Authority Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, NACADA, says containment measures have brought an unprecedented increase in alcohol intake at home, exposing children. At the Wonder Peace Rehab Center in Kiambu County, the center's manager says they are bracing for a crisis.
They have not closed down the wines and spirits of the takeaways. People are taking away alcohol, drinking at home.
The center says it's witnessed an increase in the number of people seeking help.
The rate of admissions are very high compared to the cases before Corona.
Even more worrying for Njuguna is that many of the new cases are young people.
Even clients who are 15, 16 years old, they were at school, but now because they are no longer going to school, they started using.
The center is advising parents to take a keen interest in how their children are spending their time.
There is really need for the parents to do a lot of engaging with a lot of activities. I would also suggest you find families there are people who have picked up the behavior of even exercising together. It's still something that can really work.
With the government review of containment measures expected in the next couple of weeks, NACADA wants the government to limit the sale of alcohol further before the situation turns into a crisis.
When we return, international news. Lebanon faces looming food crisis after massive explosion. And later, sport. Nigeria Football Federation to retire number 6 Eagles jersey.
You are watching ANN.
Hey, tell them. They told me you are the best around here.
What can I do for you, sir?
I want my own very, very simple. I don't want any shine. If I see any shine.
Actually, I'd love some sequins on my skirt. And I don't like any frills.
I beg, I want frills on mine, but it must not be too tight.
Tight! That tight now, that is what I want. And the transition.
Oh, you know what? I want a gown.
Me too. I want to come to one.
You know what GMS and this for coming? Hey, did you capture all the information?
Of course not.
Actually.
Fantastic.
I give my customers what they love because everyone has their unique style. So why should they wear the same thing? Just like MTN for me, which gives unique data and recharge offers just the way you like it. Just dial *121# and turn up great offers every day.
Everywhere you go, MTN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Lebanon's parliament met earlier today, Thursday, in the first session since the tragic Beirut explosion last week that changed the face of the capital and forced the government to resign. A major concern for authorities is a looming food crisis the nation faces as a result of the disaster. Respondent Adil El Marouki reports.
The World Food Programme and UN bodies are warning Lebanon is on the verge of a food security crisis. Last week's horrific port explosion has blasted the capital's main silos, destroying the country's reserves and importation power.
With the financial crisis that was taking place and remains to be in place, Lebanon is not able to get enough dollars to buy what it needs for its food security. And what we're now facing, at least before August 4th, that is before the explosion, is some serious issues about the sustainability of both the economic system from one hand and the ability of that economic system to produce enough food internally.
Lebanon imports 85% of its food. Beirut's port is the biggest in the country. The other ports are about half its size. Officials say that there are no significant shortages registered yet because of the blast.
After the destruction of the port and all our wheat and grain silos got burned, we feared there would be a food crisis, at least in staples. It appears that there's now immediate aid from our friendly nations who are sending grains and food on their way now.
Despite the destruction their capital is facing, many Lebanese volunteers are working around the clock to help fill in the food gap. They assemble food parcels containing necessities that could suffice families for 1 month.
The solidarity we've seen from everyone here is beyond greatness. Once people knew we were offering this relief cell, they trusted us, and we started getting direct in-kind donations. Everyone is trying to help in the way they can.
No matter how big these ongoing relief efforts are, the Lebanese capital needs more. And because of the current economic crisis, those who are financially capable to support cannot withdraw enough cash from banks.
Malaysian glove makers are smiling to the bank even amid the COVID-19 pandemic. They are among the few companies whose shares are benefiting from the novel coronavirus pandemic as Asia demands higher standards of public hygiene. Correspondent Rian Mezo has the story.
Malaysia churns out more than 2/3 of the world's disposable rubber gloves. And companies here have been ramping up their production during the pandemic.
The demand has been phenomenal to the point that, our lead time in terms of delivery has moved up to about 6 months to about 12 months. So that is the waiting period. So demand far outstrips the supply.
Glove prices have been rising and manufacturers' profits surging, fueling a buying frenzy on Malaysia's stock market. 2 glove makers have vaulted into the top 3 most valuable companies on Malaysia's main index, behind only the country's biggest bank. Glove makers' stock prices have risen hundreds of %.
Astounding, the way it went up. I think now, thanks to the low interest rate regime, we saw a lot of people withdrawing their money and pumping into this market. The obvious winners will be those directly linked to the healthcare sector.
But a loan repayment moratorium to help people cope with the economic impact of the pandemic has hurt the share prices of the banks, with the construction and property sectors also losing ground. For the glove makers, though, there's still plenty of scope for growth, even post-pandemic, with greater emphasis on hygiene likely to endure.
America has about 150 pairs per capita consumption, if you look at the annual numbers. And you look at China, it's only about 4 or 5 pairs. India is about 3 to 4 pairs. And Africa, with 1.2 billion people, is looking at about 2 pairs.
How long the glove maker frenzy will continue driving Malaysia's surprising stock market run, despite economic and political worries, is less certain.
Up next, sports. NFF to retire number 6 Eagles jersey. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sports, Nigerian Football Federation President Amaju Pinnick says the federation is considering retiring the Super Eagles number 6 jersey previously worn by late Sam Okwaraji. Okwaraji died of congestive heart failure minutes after he slumped during the 1990 World Cup qualifier between Nigeria and Angola inside the main board of the Lagos National Stadium. The game ended 1-0 in favor of the Eagles. Pinnick says he's ready to forward the proposal to the Executive Committee for implementation. Players of the Nigeria female football team Pelican Stars are protesting once again over failure of the Cross River government to pay them for 2 years. They are demanding for at least 1 year payment. The players say they are tired of unfulfilled promises. They say the state needs to take action and pay them. That is any news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.